Adrian Cole's worst day began with a single sheet of paper. It wasn't thin office stock either, it was heavy, expensive, the kind of paper companies use when they want bad news to feel official. Standing in the 34th floor restroom of the Harrington and Knox Tower, Adrian stared at the reflection of a 24-year-old man whose life had just collapsed. The termination letter trembled in his hands: redundancy, restructuring, market downturn. Polished words that really meant you're fired. 2 years of grueling work, skipping meals, sleeping at his desk, chasing approval, gone in an instant. His savings couldn't cover rent. His future was a blank, terrifying void. Adrian splashed water on his face, hoping the sting might wake him from this nightmare. But when he straightened his tie and stepped out, reality hit harder. And then, Cole. My office. The voice belonged to Veronica Harrington, CEO. Rumored to be merciless. Adrian had seen her only from a distance, a living legend whose gaze could silence entire boardrooms. Why summon him, a discarded analyst? Her office felt like another world: glass walls, cold steel, a city skyline bowing beneath her. She didn't rise. She didn't need to. Her presence filled the room. Adrian Cole, she said crisply, shutting his file. Top graduate, diligent worker, and as of 15 minutes ago, unemployed. Her sharp blue eyes met his. But I don't waste potential. Not when I can repurpose it. Adrian blinked. Repurpose? She leaned forward, voice lowering to a near whisper. Our board demands more representation in leadership. Women in power. Fresh optics. She paused, her eyes tracing his face with unsettling precision. You have a softness. Delicate features. With the right shaping, you could become exactly what this company needs. The words struck like a lightning bolt. He laughed, nervously. You mean, what? A disguise? Her smile was predatory. Not a disguise. A rebirth. I'll erase this termination. I'll double your salary. Corner office, senior analyst title. In return, Adrian Cole ceases to exist during work hours. You'll be Aria Cole, refined, commanding, undeniable. She slid 2 documents across her obsidian desk. One was his severance check, a pitiful amount that wouldn't cover 2 weeks' rent. The other was a sleek contract with numbers so large his vision blurred. Your choice, Veronica said smoothly. Walk away forgotten. Or sign, and become unforgettable. Adrian's throat was dry. His entire life hung on the edge of that desk. The humiliation of failure pressed on one side, and the absurd, terrifying chance of survival pressed on the other. His hand, trembling but driven by desperation, pushed the severance aside. Fingers closed around the contract. His voice barely rose above a whisper. Okay. Veronica's grin widened, victory glinting in her eyes. She picked up the phone. Send the transformation team to Suite 60. The project begins tonight. Adrian's stomach turned. His reflection in the glass wall no longer looked like him. Already, the man he knew was vanishing. And deep down, a question he dared not voice coiled like a shadow. What if I can't come back? Veronica's assistant, tall, silent, sharp as a blade, escorted Adrian through a hallway he hadn't known existed. Past the executive floors, past the glittering offices, up to a place few employees had ever seen, Suite 60. The door opened, and Adrian froze. It wasn't an office. It looked like a private penthouse, its walls lined with full-length mirrors, racks of clothes that ranged from corporate chic to runway couture, and lighting so precise it felt surgical. At the center stood 3 people, waiting like sculptors before unshaped marble. Mr. Cole, the woman with a severe bob and black attire, raised an eyebrow. No. Not anymore. You're my canvas now. I'm Seraphine, head stylist. A man with shimmering blonde highlights leaned casually against a vanity filled with brushes and palettes. Name's Julian, he said with a mischievous smile. Your face is mine. "Don't worry, darling, I'll make you beautiful." And finally, a tall woman with calm eyes extended a hand. Dr. Harper Lynn. Voice, posture, behavioral conditioning. You'll speak and move like the woman you're becoming. Adrian's pulse thundered in his ears. This is insane. Seraphine snapped her fingers. Clothes. No. Before he could argue, a bundle was shoved into his hands, an unfamiliar set of garments, smooth, restrictive, alien. He retreated into the changing alcove, his breath shallow. The first item, a compression garment, tightened across his torso like steel bands, crushing the air from his lungs. Then came silicone curves, placed with ruthless precision. When he finally tugged on the pencil skirt and silk blouse, he barely recognized the weight on his chest or the strange swish of fabric at his thighs. When Adrian stumbled out, Seraphine circled him like a hawk. Broad shoulders, narrow hips. Wheel fix with corsetry. Walk, 3 steps. He obeyed, wobbling. The skirt forced smaller strides. The low heels, starter heels, Seraphine called them, made him feel like a newborn deer. Pathetic, Seraphine muttered, but her eyes glinted with challenge. Julian stepped forward, voice smooth as honey. Relax, sweetheart. Let's paint. He sat Adrian down, swung a ring light in front of his face, and began his work. Cold liquid foundation smeared across his skin. Brushes dusted, contoured, transformed. Adrian shut his eyes, but Julian coaxed, "Look at me. See?" Strong jaw softened. Nose refined. Eyes, those eyes, framed in shadow and light. Beautiful already. When the mirror turned, Adrian's breath caught. The person staring back wasn't Adrian. Not fully. Wide, nervous eyes. Softer lines. Lips tinted rose. He looked wrong. And yet, disturbingly, convincing. Dr. Lynn approached next. Her voice was steady, almost gentle. Adrian, no. Aria. That's who you are in this building. Speak after me. Hello, my name is Aria Cole. His throat felt dry. Hello, my name is, the words cracked, his voice dropping embarrassingly low. Higher, she corrected. Think whisper. Think secret. Again. For the next hour, she drilled him with vowel sounds, whispers, scales. Each attempt left his throat raw, his face hot with humiliation. But slowly, painfully, a softer voice emerged. Uneven, trembling, but different. Better, Dr. Lynn nodded. Not Adrian. Not anymore. Finally, Seraphine added a wig, dark auburn waves cascading past his shoulders. She adjusted his collar, stepped back, and smirked. Acceptable. Barely. The door hissed open. Veronica Harrington entered, her heels striking the floor like gavel strikes. She circled him slowly, arms crossed, her gaze dissecting every detail. The silence stretched into eternity before she finally spoke. Perfect, she whispered. Welcome to your new life, Aria. Adrian, no, Aria, stood frozen in the mirror's glare, his reflection a stranger's. For the first time, he wondered if signing that contract had been less of a lifeline, and more of a trap. The next morning, Adrian woke before dawn. For the first time in his life, getting ready for work was not just about combing his hair and knotting a tie, it was a ritual of erasure. He shaved until his skin burned. He strapped on the binder and breast forms, each step a reminder of how far from himself he was drifting. The corset Seraphine had insisted on squeezed his ribs until every breath felt like a shallow compromise. Then came the layers of armor, silk blouse, fitted skirt, heels that punished his balance. Finally, the wig, its auburn strands brushing against his cheek like chains disguised as hair. By the time he looked in the mirror, Adrian was gone. Aria Cole blinked back, fragile, unfamiliar, terrifyingly convincing. The office, once dull gray and predictable, had transformed into a battlefield. Every glance felt sharper. Every conversation a test. Men who had never looked twice at Adrian now held doors open. Some stared too long. Women in the elevator smiled politely, one even complimented Aria's shoes, a pair Veronica had chosen for him. Aria's pulse thundered with every word he spoke, terrified the masculine edge in his voice would slip through. Even answering a simple good morning felt like walking a tightrope without a net. But the hardest moment came at lunch. The cafeteria used to be Adrian's safe corner, a place to eat quietly with his spreadsheets. Now, as Aria, he was invited into a circle of women from marketing. They chatted about dating apps, weekend brunches, and the latest boutique sales. Aria nodded, smiled, mimicked their laughter. Inside, Adrian screamed. Every gesture was a performance. Cross your legs. Tilt your head. Keep your voice light. Every second was exhausting theater. The true nightmare, however, was the restroom. He stood outside the women's door for 5 long minutes, his heart hammering like a criminal about to commit a heist. Finally, he forced himself inside. The lighting was softer, the air perfumed. 2 women chatted at the mirrors. One brushed her hair. Another adjusted her lipstick. Aria locked himself in a stall, sitting in silence, barely daring to breathe. Then, Knuckles rapped gently on his stall. Aria? You in there? Thank God. Total emergency. Do you have a spare pad? It was Chloe, an accountant. Aria's throat closed. A pad? His mind spun, he hadn't even thought about carrying such things. I don't, sorry, he stammered, his voice pitched higher than ever. Chloe sighed but didn't press. No worries. I'll ask around. When her footsteps faded, Aria sat trembling, sweat beading at his temples. One simple request had almost shattered the illusion. That night, Seraphine shoved a small purse into his hands. Inside were essentials, pads, tampons, lip gloss, compact mirror. Never be caught unprepared again, she warned. One slip, and you're finished.